Fixers. Hope you're having an awesome day. I am so excited for today's episode. Now, before I tell you why I'm super excited, I mean, you already know the names of the people as they are right here on the episode title, but why I'm super excited, I'll tell you in one moment. First, if you haven't taken the mindset assessment, you will want to do it at lifefixuniversity.com/mindset. Especially by the end of today's episode, you'll know exactly why. Now, today's guest is my mentor, not from CJA, where I had already a few of my mentors on, but my mentor that has helped me get to where I am today with building LifePix University, helping people rewire their brains. Okay, Dr. Jeanne Zehr has literally trained me in tactile, helping people with the focus and removing the ADHD things, helping advanced YBR. YBR is just the beginning. Once you do your brain rewired, then we had more sessions later on that Dr. Jeanne has trained me into that. She has changed. Some of my siblings went to her center, MINDCAP in Fort Wayne, for couple of weeks, and she absolutely changed them. They went for 1 week, and sometimes they went another week later, and they became different people. Any single time I have a question about someone, who's the person I ask? Dr. Jeanne. She is literally like my mentor, my role model, the person that has helped me. I aspire to be her in many ways, the way that she helps people, and she is so giving with what her knowledge and the way she makes people feel. And I just love her. I'm going to go on forever. So I'm just going to let them introduce themselves. I'm going to let them tell you about themselves because I am excited for them. So thank you so much, Dr. Jeanne and Rick, for being here. I'm really, really excited to be here speaking with you. You want to start by telling us how you guys met?
Well, it was back when we were in high school. It was a blind date. And so she was the very first girl I ever dated, and we've been together ever since. So that was back in September of 1969. I met her.
Oh, wow!
This year we will be married. We'll be married 50 years this year.
Congratulations!
So, yeah, it was. When I saw her the first time, I thought, okay, yeah, I like her.
You can't not like her. I mean, I don't know what she was like 50 years ago, but.
Well, I was impressed because he was a big, handsome football player, so I thought he was a pretty cool dude. And I think what also clicked for us right away is that we talked for hours and hours and hours. We enjoyed being together. Mm-hmm. So, and we have argued very little. I mean, we have differences of opinion all the time, maybe even more so as we age, but we don't fight. The typical marital spats and stuff. We just didn't have any of those. We just have gotten along really well. So God did good when he got us together.
Was it also your first date?
Mm-hmm.
No, not mine. No. Yeah. He was about number 3 or 4, but I finally knew I found the right one.
In high school, yeah. Oh, guys. Wow. Okay. So tell me, let's get a little bit of history. What were you guys doing before you did MINDCAP?
Well, I was a pastor. And so I pastored for about 25 years. And I also did some construction. I like working with my hands too. So would purchase some houses or work for a fellow that would purchase houses. And I would go in and do everything from minor electrical work to the construction and things along. Anything he wanted done, I would do for him. And so, yeah, it was. And now I'm retired from that, and now I help Jeanne, and she can explain what she does better than I can, probably. So, yes.
So, yeah, Rick helped put me through college to become a teacher and an administrator. And so I did 35 years in public education and retired, tried a couple more things, but I had been doing Feuerstein even the last, almost 10 years of my public school career had found Reuben Feuerstein and went, this is the missing piece of education. We're so good at what to learn. We don't know how to do the how to learn. And so eventually we made the big decision. We started the MINDCAP Center as a for-profit corporation and tried that for 4 or 5 years and decided to shift it to a nonprofit. And that was, I think, it was a good decision. I'm glad we did that.
What made you have to make that switch?
I actually was working with an entrepreneur coach, and he told me to keep doing my corporate work because I do workshops for corporations, companies. I'll go in and do a workshop on growth mindset or neuroplasticity or neurohijacking. Because when you're in leadership, you need to understand how you impact literally the brain of the people that you lead. And so I was doing those workshops, and he says, you need to keep that as a for-profit. But he says, this work you're doing here with MINDCAP, with clients, he says, make that a not-for-profit. And it clicked with us. We're like, that makes sense, because then we can apply for grants. It took a year to make the transition, a ton of paperwork to the federal government to finally be recognized as a not-for-profit.
Yeah. So give us a little bit background of how you got introduced to the Feuerstein method.
I was at a school, it was called Village Elementary, and I just looked at one of my yearbooks from this school. My daughter, our daughter Carrie worked there, her picture's in the yearbook. Our son was going through college at the time. He was a teacher's aide there. And so I just had to chuckle that all 3 of us were there. But it was a school with extreme poverty, very few intact families, a lot of foster parents, a lot of single mothers, a lot of kids that moved a lot from different apartments to survive. And I'm watching a webinar one day, and it's all these official psychologists, Yale, Harvard, Columbia. At the end of the panel was this guy whose name I couldn't figure out, Reuben Feuerstein. I'm going, what? Who is this? Had a beret on, and we didn't have Google. This was in the 90s. We didn't have Google back then, but internet was around. So I looked him up. And as I listened to him talk that day, I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but I want what he's got, because he had a message of hope. This idea of structural cognitive modifiability, that the brain is capable of changes at any age, was mind-boggling. We didn't talk like that in American education. We talked about how once a child is 5 or 6 years old, their brain and their personality are pretty well set. You're not going to do much after that to change that. So that's what we were taught. And here's this guy from Israel blowing that theory out of the water. And I'm going, whoa, okay, I want to chase that idea, because I thought it was pretty cool.
Wow. And you, Rick, bought into the idea? Like, what did you think when you first heard about it?
Well, she was so excited about this. And in her whole teaching career, she was always on that cutting edge of how can I do things better? And when she was in the school that she was at on the southeast part of Fort Wayne, she says, how can I help these kids learn better? And once she found Reuben, it was like she said, it was that missing piece. So it was that next summer, she went to Chicago with a friend, and she found that Reuben was having a conference there, or classes there. And she went there for the very first time. And it seemed like every summer, she was going to another seminar, another class to get another.
Sounds like me now.
Yes, it probably is. And so the thing is, now I'm really just proud of where Jeannie is as far as what she has been able to do with this and how she's touching people's lives through education and through the MINDCAP Center. It's amazing how people are coming and their lives are being changed. So
literally, like, I think of MINDCAP, the MINDCAP Center, as like, every time I feel like a little kid walking into a candy store when I walk in there, there's like such an energy and such a vibe of like just growth. And like change is possible, and that hope that people like is looking for is literally like coming out of there. I just love it. I love it so much. So talk to us a little bit first about what mediation is, because here on the podcast, we speak a lot about the cognitive functions and we speak a lot about strategies. And every week there's 2 episodes on that. So we all know about rewiring our brains, but mediation is a little bit less. So I'm curious to hear from your perspective what it is, and then how people could actually apply it in their own lives.
Mediation is high quality human interaction. One example is, think about when you're with your best friend at the coffee shop and you could just sit there for hours talking because you're very, very engaged. So you know that as a school teacher, when you get done with a lesson and the kids are all bright-eyed and they were with you and they're leaning forward and it's like, wow, I did a really good job of teaching. So that engagement, that intentionality, reciprocity is that piece of mediation where you're in it for the right reason. Your words matter, your tone matters, your timing matters, and your quantity. All the words matter when you're mediating. Where it's different from direct instruction. There also, all those things matter, but it's more, I'm just delivering good information and hopefully you're listening and you're going to get it. So a good lecture, a good sermon, anytime we watch a YouTube video on how to do something, that's direct instruction. And if you're highly motivated, you're going to learn from it. But we all know that we often have to work with children that don't know why they have this learning problem. They aren't motivated. They're frustrated maybe with life and with learning. And so now your mediation really, really matters. How you interact with that child is absolutely critical. So you're going to slow down. You're going to watch this child. You're going to look for his eyes. Is he looking at you? You're going to look at his body language. You're going to respond accordingly. It's a bit like dancing. I don't know. Rick and I have joked about taking ballroom dancing. We think that'd be fun. We haven't done that. But mediation is a lot like ballroom dancing, is that you're flowing together. You're having to read each other's body language, and it's beautiful when you see it happen. Mediation for a parent is, what I tell parents is just slow down. You're talking 90 miles an hour. You're in the morning saying things like, did you eat your breakfast? Where's your shoes? Do you have your book bag? You didn't brush your teeth yet. Did you eat breakfast? I don't think you ate breakfast yet. We got to get in the car. Where's your brother? Where's your sister? Does this sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So parents, and you do have to go through that sometimes. I'm not saying you have to stop everything you're doing, but every child in your household should get at the minimum 5 minutes of your undivided attention per day. Undivided. That they know you're there completely for them and you're not doing this. Yeah, honey, how was your day at school? Oh, was it pretty good? I mean, if Rick and I had a conversation and I was just scrolling and texting and just glancing at him once in a while, that doesn't look very engaging. So we got to put our technology down and use our body and make sure our children know that we care and that we're engaged with them. That's part of mediation, is this idea of total engagement. Then the second part is just asking good questions. The worst question you could ask your kid was, what'd you learn at school today? Because you know what they're going to say? Nothing. Or even, how was your day at school? And they'll say, okay. Or, you just get this very blah answer. You have to be very specific with kiddos. Like, tell me something that your teacher did today that really interested you. Or did you have a friend say something today that made your brain just pay attention? So ask such a crazy specific question and then make sure the child knows you're going to wait on their answer. This idea of wait time is the other huge piece. Your body language, your intentionality is huge, but then are you willing to ask a question and then zip it and listen. And I've had parents repeatedly tell me, wow, after I started doing that, I found out my kid knows a whole lot more than I realized because, they finally shut up and listened.
Oh, so tell us a little bit for our listeners, not all of them have kids, but are more like in their own lives, let's say either in relationships or in work. Where could they use mediation? Obviously, it's a little bit different because you're not so cool trying to teach your partner or your coworker or something, but at the same time, it could be really helpful in relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rick and I joke because we know each other so well that we kid each other when we're talking and we'll say, you didn't hear a word I said, did you? He'll say that to me or I'll say it to him. And we just laugh now and go, yeah, okay, I'm paying attention now. So even with adults, we have to show with our body language and with our questions that we care about this other adult. If we're in management and it's somebody that reports to us, mediation is a very powerful tool because it's really going to show that person that you are interested in the work that they're doing. What would you add?
Well, I think the thing of relationship is, to have this basically common ground where you are. I look at a marriage that there's like, your spiritual life together. I look at it that you need to have mutual respect for each other. And then learn how to laugh with each other. And I think all of those things can build a platform of really interacting with each other, as long as we have the respect and enjoy being together. And that whole aspect of where we're at, our whole spiritual walk together is really crucial of being on that same page too. So,
what was it like for you, Rick, to start being mediated on as soon as Jeannie was?
I get mediated every day, Etsy. I come home and she, it's really interesting because she'll tell me stories about clients, and it's just what it does is I'm a sounding board because I feel like she needs to share this. And I'm always willing to listen to this because it's interesting to see how kids are progressing in that. And so she comes home and she shares quite a bit. And there's days I go in and sometimes I'm behind the desk answering the phone or I go mediate sometimes for things like that. But it's a very full, interesting life.
Yeah. Let me share about a new client that we just met with this week. I got an email. People contact the MINDCAP Center through my website, and all those emails come to me. And this man wanted to explain how he had many head injuries and concussions and an active drug life. And he'd been abused as a little boy for many years. He was also put on the corner to sell drugs, started using hard drugs when he was 12. He's now 32 years old. And a pastor at a local church said, I think you need to call the MINDCAP Center because he says, I want my brain to work better. And this pastor knows us. And he said, Jeanne Zehr, I wonder if she's related to a Rick Zehr. Because Rick Zehr used to mentor me. So lo and behold, this client, how many years ago? 10?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Over 10 years ago, Rick worked with this young man who I never met. He would come home and tell me stories about this, young man and what a tough life he had. And then he kind of disappeared from his life and now so when he emailed and he said, I wonder if you're related to Rick Zehr. And so I called him and I said, yeah, I said, Pastor Rick's my husband. He goes, wow. He goes, this is really cool. And I said, yeah, you think it's maybe a God thing that's brought you back? And he says, yep, definitely. He's a strong believer now. And so there's a lot of hope for him. He's been clean for a year from his drugs. So Rick came into the free consultation and it was, I think he hugged you 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. giving Rick these Rick gives really good big bear hugs. So we're really excited for him to start next week, and we're hopefully going to rebuild that brain of his, one cognitive function at a time, and he's very motivated, so there's great hope for him. So that's one of our clients. It's been interesting because we've both been involved.
It's a connection.
Yeah, in his life.
Oh, I love those stories. You have like them from just listen to them for hours because they're so good. I want to take it like a little bit of a turn, and now like hopefully with our trip to Ethiopia, I want to hear a little bit about how you've traveled, I know, together to many, many countries around the world to help teach people grow their brain and those stuff. So what you've done, and especially what it was like to do that as a couple.
So you tell them, what's your favorite country that we went to a lot?
Well, the favorite place that Jeannie would train at would be Australia. She's probably been there at least 10 times, I think, to teach and to train. And I probably went with her probably over half of the times to go there. So I know my way around Melbourne probably as well as I know my own city of Fort Wayne, because everything is laid out very nice, and there's nice maps and mass transit and everything. So I really enjoyed that. The people were wonderful down there, met some amazing people, and was able to get into some of the training and meet some of the people that were being trained to go back into the school system that they were there. And tremendous people down there. And that was probably my favorite place to go. Yeah.
The first country that the Feuerstein Institute sent me to was South Africa. And that was maybe, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. But since then, I've been to South Korea, been to Paris 3 times, I think. I've been to Denmark and Prague, Czech Republic, England, but to train for the Institute. Then Cambodia and Thailand is mission work that the Institute has supported me to do for victims of human sex trafficking. That's with an organization called Destiny Rescue. And Rick went with me to Cambodia. Just loved that whole experience. It's tragic, it's sad, and yet there's tremendous hope. They love the program. I would train young Cambodian men and women who were teachers and counselors for the young teens that had been rescued out of the brothels. And so they got training in homes, and then they had to be returned. The Cambodian government requires that the children be returned to their home. We just have to hope and pray that they aren't sold again, because it's the families that sell. They have 5 children. They maybe sell 1 to the trafficker. They think they're going to work at a hotel in Phnom Penh. We suspicion that they know better, that what's going to happen to that beautiful girl. But that was just incredible. I've got to spend my birthday in 2019 at an elephant refugee camp in the northern part of Thailand. And so I'm up early in the morning on my birthday with my cup of hot tea, watching the elephants like just feet away from where I was at in the camp. It was just stunning, a stunning place to be. We've got to visit the temples of Angkor Wat, and it's the largest religious complex in the world, in the jungles of Cambodia. Very stunning. So I've loved all the countries that I visited. I get asked quite often, well, which is your favorite country? That is just so difficult to answer. Love Italy. It's just, every country has beauty. And I think even more so than what we see, like Rick mentioned, it's the people that we meet, and that they're hungry for this method, and they're ready to take the training. And so I love that part of it, is meeting the people from so many different cultures. The first time I was in South Africa, maybe by the second day, we decided to work outside, and because the weather's like stunningly perfect.
Yeah.
We were down on the garden route, little village up in the hills called Karatra, and we walked outside, and we're all sitting underneath this big acacia tree, and I'm teaching, feeling like Socrates, and I'm like, oh my word, this is what God has called me to do. Cross-cultural work. I am supposed to do this. So anyway, Ethiopia is a possibility. In negotiations with a possibility of helping that country. I have good friends who are there and do mission work. And so we'll see if Ethiopia gets added to the list. I think Rick and I have been in 20 different countries in the world, 12 of them for the Feuerstein Institute to do training, for me to do training.
Wow. That does a lot for yourself, for your own like personal relationship, the experience that it gives you. And like you said, the people you meet, which first, as soon as you said like, okay, we meet people who are like hungry to learn. And I'm like, yeah, well, like you're going to attract those people and people who want to learn these things, like literally, like if you're looking for something, you're going to find this, because it is just so clear and so obvious what the Feuerstein method does. But it also made me think, like, what do you tell people in general, whether you're traveling or at home or whatever it is, who are very like critical, I guess, of the method? They're like not so sure. Obviously, they didn't have much experience with it, would be what I assume they're coming from. But like, how do you answer those people?
One of my Israeli friends at the Institute said, the Feuerstein method sounds too good to be true. And that's one of the things that makes it difficult to explain it to someone, because it works with a 3-year-old just like it works with an 83-year-old. It doesn't matter your age or your cognitive challenge. There is something in the Feuerstein program that can help that brain work better. So I go back to one of my initial things that I said tonight, Esty, and that is that we're good at the what to learn, but the Feuerstein method shows us how to learn. By learning those 28 cognitive strategies, suddenly I now have language for my thinking skills. Well, that's very empowering to finally have language. In American research, they discovered that metacognition, the ability to think about my thinking, raises test scores. The kids who can think about, how do I study for that test because I didn't do so good last time? And same way for adults on a job. My boss says I got to do what? I've never done that before. So if you've got these 28 strategies that Reuven identified as the building blocks of all learning and thinking, and then I learn a little bit about mediation, about how to ask good questions and give wait time, then we're empowering people for them to be able to raise their potential to levels they never imagined possible. Every human has limitless potential. So we should never say something like, oh, well, we want him to reach his potential, as if we know what his potential is. There's no IQ test. They're pretty good. IQ tests are pretty good at determining what your potential is, but they're not the last say. So with Feuerstein, you're able to stretch that. And who are we to say, oh, this child has a 72 IQ, so he'll never be able to, have a good job. Or, oh, she'll never go to college. Oh, well, I like to, in my head, when I hear people say things like that, I want to say, oh, who made you God? So since when do you know this about this person? So
right.
We've been very judgmental, thinking we can label and put people in boxes, and Feuerstein kind of explodes the boxes.
Yeah. Now you did something really, really good by bringing in growth mindset and Carol Dweck's work into Feuerstein. I wish the Institute would implement it a little bit more also. How did you discover that? And how are you able to weave it in so nicely.
Mm-hmm. It was doing my doctoral work research, because of course I used Feuerstein, and I kept stumbling across implicit learning theories, and it wasn't even called growth mindset back then, but the more I explored it, then I started finding the original work by Carol Dweck. I mean, I was digging into research briefs that she had published that were in, dusty archives. And because it wasn't until 2006 or 7 that she published her book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, for the common reader, for parents, teachers, people in the work world. Anyone can read that book and get quite a bit out of it. It's a good read. But I was reading her original research and I was going, oh my word, here's proof of Reuven's theory of structural cognitive modifiability, that having a need to believe is important to the process of improving my capacity to learn. So her research proved his research was right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, do you tend to find that in your own life, you end up catching each other and saying hey, that's a fixed mindset type of thing?
Yeah.
We do that. Not quite often, but yeah, we do catch each other.
You guys just have a growth mindset most of the time, so you don't need to catch each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what has been your favorite part about this entire process?
You go first.
Well, it's a journey. It's one of those things that throughout life, I mean, there's times when you will go and things won't work out. Well, you don't give up. What you do is you think, okay, we need to change something here. So in the process of MINDCAP, we the first 4 or 5 years, we're going, okay, people really don't know who we are yet. And so do we need to change our method? Do we need to change how people can find us and things like that? And so that's a journey. And there was a dear friend of Jeannie's that told her that when MINDCAP started, you have to wait about 5 to 7 years. And I'm going, whoa, 5 to 7 years? And she was just about right on. And when she said that, and all of a sudden there's people that have come to MINDCAP, and it's been very beneficial. And so the thing is word of mouth has come to the point where that's probably the best advertisement. When you can touch a young person's life, or a person that has had a stroke, or a person that has had a head injury, what they do is they say, you need to call Jeannie. You need to call MINDCAP Center, and that's been the whole part of this journey, is that we've just taken one step at a time. And it's really, it's blossoming in a way that is just amazing to see how people's lives are being changed. So I don't know. If you want to share.
Yeah, I could say from personal experience, people that I know closely, how much have changed.
I got friends coming from New Jersey, Atlanta, Georgia, Illinois, Michigan, Canada, Minnesota, Wisconsin, have trained people from Brazil, Lithuania. I've got a friend from the Czech Republic coming, I think, this summer. So what has been the best thing about this whole journey, I can sum up in the word transformation. Mm-hmm. Watching people transform and go beyond what they thought possible. The joy that brings them, to watch that joy, of course, brings me joy. It just can't get any better than that.
Right. The best is when you get a phone call from someone else who didn't even know that you've been doing this process, and is I've seen my client or whatever, my student change tons, and I asked them what happened, and they said they've been going to you, and you're that transformation. It's real. Someone who doesn't know they've been doing this work sees they were transformed. I was working once in an office, I was doing a session. I would go to their office to do with their older office managers, their Feuerstein. And one lady, she never told her husband that she that she does this every week in office. I don't know why not, but okay. And all of a sudden she started speaking to him differently. You know, I guess she started noticing his perspective a little more at some like cognitive functions there. And he's like, are you starting to see a therapist? And it was really just because she was doing Feuerstein. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we get to our final question, where could life fixers connect with you, learn more about MINDCAP, and just be in touch with you?
The website is mind-cap.org. And wherever you get podcasts, you should be able to find Build a Brain. The Build a Brain podcast just launched last fall. Each podcast focuses on one of the 28 cognitive functions. I tell stories. How could you develop it in yourself? What if you're mentoring a teenager? What if you have a child? So it's for people who know nothing about Feuerstein. So they do not have to have any kind of training. And that's exactly what I wanted to do with the podcast. I wanted it to reach the general public and then filter into it. Oh, and if you'd like to know more, you should learn about Feuerstein. So I just kind of put that in as a tagline at the end. But I do want his method to be able to go a little more viral to help more people. And I think the 28 cognitive functions are it. When I get done with them, then I'm going to dive into mediation, because high quality human interaction is now more critical than at any time in history because of COVID.
Yeah.
And you can email me through the website. If you go to the website, the contact us, all those emails come to me. So
awesome. Well, listeners, LifePick listeners who go to Build a Brain will be able to go and identify those cognitive functions because they've already been practicing it. So it'll be really interesting for them to go and see how they could understand it even deeper or differently or something like that by listening to your podcast. Okay, final question. This is one that I ask everyone, okay? But I'm going to change it a tiny little bit for you. How would you describe an extraordinary relationship without using these three words? Love,
okay.
Connection,
Okay.
and for you, I'm putting in transformation.
And by relationship, you mean like a marriage relationship or any?
Yes, a marriage relationship.
Okay. A good relationship.
Extraordinary relationship.
Extraordinary. Oh, I think you should use your three.
Well, yeah, I think the thing is I use like the TLC method. Yeah, it's tender, loving care, but we won't use that way. The T is for talking. It's crucial that every day couples in a relationship talk, whether it's for 5 minutes or if you set aside 15 minutes just to check out where you've been that day, what are the exciting things that happened that day. Maybe it was a tough thing that day, but talking is essential. The L is that you have to laugh with each other. I think that is it's hard to be angry or frustrated when you learn to laugh with each other. Now, there's going to be tough times, but don't let that to take precedence, but learn to enjoy and laugh with each other. And the C is to comfort each other. When times get tough, and there's sometimes that a hug means more than anything. And I think the thing is to remember that we're all going to have those days in a relationship. And are you going to stand there with each other? And so it's talk, laugh, and comfort.
Oh, I like that. I think I'm going to start using it.
Okay. I can illustrate each one of those. The talk, we can't usually go a whole day without one of us calling the other to ask a question we spend all this time. We've had an empty nest for years. Our kids are, raised and gone and have grandkids. And yet we will still talk on the phone during the day, even though we're going to spend the whole evening together. So it's too funny. We sometimes can't wait to tell each other something. And the laugh, we decided when we got married, we made a pledge that we would laugh at each other's jokes, even if we didn't think they were that funny. And that's helped. And so we do kid each other when one of us is trying to be funny and the other one's not laughing too much. We're like, remember, you said, all right, haha. And then
that will get you to laugh.
Right. It does. And then we have known a lot of sadness and sorrow. We've lost family members. We've had a lot of sorrow and grief in our life, and we wouldn't have made it through without being able to comfort each other. So yeah, those are a good 3. Does that work?
I love that. I like that so much. TLC. Okay. We're going to start doing that. A lot of that. Well, thank you so much, Rick and Dr. Jeanne. I always love talking to you. You're just so knowledgeable. And at the same time, you put everyone so much at ease for at the stage where they're at and for what they know without really showing the whole world of what you really do know. Never, no one would ever guess that just by talking to you. So yes, this is so much fun. I really appreciate taking the time to make this happen.
You're welcome.
You're welcome,
yeah,
Esty.
It's a pleasure.
Always a joy to talk with you.
That's all for this episode of the Life Fix University podcast, but I have a huge favor to ask of you that will not only support the show, but will also help the people you love most. We are striving for 1 million downloads by the end of 2025, and we can't do this without your help. If you love this episode, please share it with 2 of your family and friends so they too can rewire their brains to have an extraordinary marriage. It was awesome spending time with you, and I'll see you on the next episode.